Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Christian's Girlies Chat, and with me here is Dolapo.
Hi everyone.
And we'll be talking about navigating career and faith as a Christian woman. I brought Dolapo here because she is a career woman
Well,
and she's a Christian woman, and I'm very curious as to how she's able to navigate a very very busy career life with her faith, and she's someone that is actively involved in her work with God. So I'm very curious as to how you've been able to do that, because me I won't say I'm not navigating well, but I won't say I'm there yet at being able to navigate work and God, right? So how would you say you've been able to do that so far?
okay. Well, thank you for having me here.
You're welcome.
So I think the first thing that I would, just put out there is I wouldn't say I'm there yet either. Um, Navigating your work with God alongside your career is something that I consider a daily journey. Every day doesn't look the same for me. It just looks like deciding that I want to prioritize my work with God. And so on some days that looks like rolling out of bed and grabbing my laptop first thing because I woke up late and launching into work, but listening to a sermon while I'm doing that, and then taking a few minutes to just pray. On some other days that looks like deliberately staying off breakfast. I won't call it a fast, right? But just choosing to skip my breakfast, and the time I would have used to eat, I use it to fellowship, right? So every day looks different for me, considering also that I don't have a static schedule. My schedule changes per day. So yeah, but I'll say a routine works for me. I tailor my routine to each day depending on what the day
Okay.
looks like. So I just map out a routine for those days. But maybe when we get deeper into the chat, so that would come up, or yeah.
So what would you say is the hardest thing about putting faith at the center of what you do?
Off the top of my head, the hardest thing is understanding the importance of it. I find that I have to remind myself a lot of times that I really cannot do anything on my own. So if I haven't prayed, I'm just on what I would call autopilot. So the hardest thing for me is that focus, because all these other things are real. Well, not to say your work with God is not real, but like they are more immediate in the results. So if I spend 2 hours working, by the way, I'm a legal practitioner, right? So if I spend 2 hours working on a contract, I have my result in the sense that I'm done with that contract. I can see the immediate result. But if you spend 2 hours praying, you don't necessarily see a portal that has opened up in front of you physically, right? So I think the hardest thing for me is understanding the practicality of it and knowing that this is a real thing that I cannot do without. Yes, there may not be an instant result in front of me, like, oh, I make a declaration and I see it right now, right here.
Yeah.
I mean, those happen on some days, but I'm saying as of a constant, something sustainable, right? So the hardest part for me is me just going back to remind myself that the love of God is your source. So you cannot start your day without God. You cannot launch into work without God. He's the source of your wisdom. He's the source of your strength. On the days that I'm confused, it happens on some days that work is so much, a lot of things calling for my attention at the same time. And I will find myself just closing my laptop, sitting in front of my workstation and saying, "But I invite you into this day. I invite you into this entire scenario. Show me what to do per time, per the hour. Show me what to prioritize. Show me what tasks to take forward right now." And just by doing that, an overwhelming sense of peace and direction comes. I think that's just it. Realizing that the help is instant, the direction is instant. And so knowing that helps me prioritize it on the days where I'm tempted to just roll out of bed and open up my laptop and get into it to do. I'm like, no, hold on. Open your YouVersion app. Pick out a verse for the day. I have flashcards, right? So sometimes it looks like pick a flashcard and meditate on it, right?
Okay, so have you ever thought that you've gotten to a point whereby you had to prioritize your career over your faith?
Okay, That's an interesting question, and I think I might need to understand the angle different. A scenario comes to mind, though I don't know if that would, So let me just share. I think earlier this year I had to take an exam, right? So for about 2 months I wasn't in church.
Oh, wow.
So I spoke to my team lead at the time to say, okay, so this is going on, and my classes are weekends. So Saturdays morning till late at night, Sundays morning till late at night. So what I did then was to join an online service that starts streaming at 7. So I would wake up early enough to join the 7 o'clock service of that church. It wasn't my current church. Join the 7 a.m. service. By 8:30, they are done. Classes start at 9. So between 8:30 and 9, I'm doing one or two things and I get into class at 9. So I don't know if that exactly covers prioritizing career over. Is that the angle of what you're asking?
Yes, and then in the situation, there's church, yeah. But I think our totality of Christianity doesn't really has to be church alone, right? It has to do with like our personal relationship with God. So I was saying that, have you ever gotten to that point whereby you were so engrossed with work that it kind of like affected your personal relationship with God? How were you able to handle that?
So, I mean, there's been pockets of times where that happens. But I think the first thing that I have noticed as a pattern that it doesn't last. It never lasts. So I go one day, I haven't studied my Bible, I haven't prayed. Second day, I haven't studied my Bible, I haven't prayed. By the third day, something doesn't feel right. In fact, if I'm not exaggerating, by the second day, something doesn't feel right. I'm not okay, and I know it, and I know why. So you often find me saying something like, I'm operating on autopilot. I can't continue this way. And so I deliberately then have to find time to just reconnect. I mean, I was talking to a friend the other day and I asked, do you believe God is your source? And the response was yes. And I said, so if you aren't fellowshipping with God, how do you expect to function? Because you're cut off from your source.
Yes.
So the first question is, are you a spiritual man? Are you a spiritual woman? If you are, then you know that when you're not connected to God, when you're not spending that time with God, you can't function properly, because that's your source really. So I've had those times, but they don't last. And the reason they don't last, I think it's a function of years of cultivating a habit of spending time with God. That's it for me. So when I started a new job a couple of years ago, it happened that I threw myself into needing to impress, into needing to show that I'm worth the hire, I'm worth the pay,
Yeah,
I'm
good
worth
enough.
all of it, I'm good enough,
Yeah.
quote and unquote. And so I launched in head fast, waking up super early, getting into work, working till very late at night. Now I'm exhausted, I just fall into my bed, and I wake up the next morning, thank you Lord for waking me up this morning. Where's my laptop? I grab my laptop and I'm back to work. But that wasn't sustainable. And so I remember particularly when it was through journaling, right? I just stopped. The same laptop that I would run to for work, I opened it up and I began to journal like this. I'm not functioning. I don't feel okay. I don't feel normal. I'm not functioning because I know that I'm not. How can I be so sure I'm in the will of God if I'm not talking to God?
Yeah.
How can I be so sure I'm doing what He would have me do if I'm not communicating with Him? And so what I did was I journaled, wrote out my feelings, all of that stuff, and then I took some time to pray, reminding myself, God gave me this job. It's not going to take me away from God.
Yeah.
So that's really it. Called myself back out of the auto. I always call it autopilot, right? Called myself out of it. Took some time to sit, just starting with journaling. I didn't launch right into prayer because, of course, I was. So I journaled first, just to clear my head, align my thoughts. Why is it important that I'm spending time with God? Reminded myself of it, and then took off from there.
So talking about sisterhood and community, how would you say community helps you balancing your life? How does sisterhood help you?
Community will make you do things that you ordinarily would not have done.
That's true.
If you know you have to deliver something, you have to deliver a Bible summary, a chapter summary, a book summary, a sermon summary. Ordinarily, you may not have created time for it because you are, and it's legitimate, right? You're busy. It's not like, oh, I just don't want to do it. I just don't want to study my Bible. You're busy. The time is flying. You don't know where the time is flying to. But when you know you have something to deliver, or you have somebody to hold you accountable, you don't want to show up also and say, oh, I haven't done it. What happened? I was working. I don't want to answer it. You know. So community would, it serves as accountability for me. So if I know I have a sermon review that I have to do, then I have to listen to the sermon before the review time.
Yeah,
Now when everybody is talking, oh, this part of the sermon, means I'll say, ah, yes, this part of the sermon too. You know. So community makes you, it makes you do things that you ordinarily would not have created time for on your own.
Okay, so I think we are kind of rounding off now. So I just want you to, I know there are a lot of people watching this that are either struggling with their handling their career and their faith. You know, career can be overwhelming.
Of course it can.
Career can be overwhelming. So I think the purpose of this particular episode is to teach people on how to learn how to balance both so that no one suffers
Yes,
for either.
very important.
So I just want you to give us like practical steps on how anyone watching it, any lady watching this can practically, you know, still maintain a spiritual life while having a full career.
Okay, thank you. So I think since we're sharing, I'm just going to share what I do, right? First things first is to have a routine. Routine always works for me. So on the days where I work from home, it's standard. I have my hour of prayer before launching into work. On the days I don't work from home, I can't do that because I'm out of the house by 5:20 latest, right? So I don't have an hour of prayer. But what I do, and I'm not going to tell you I pray on the road, I don't, I sleep. I sleep on my way to the office in the ride. So, but what I do that worked for me for a long time is because I leave so early, I get to the office at 7-ish. That 7-ish, I go out to the corridor, so there, you know, the hallway. I go out there, I plug my ear, I'm praying. Now, it's not a long prayer, right? It's usually not a long prayer because I have to get back into the office. But I just take some time to acknowledge God. That's my go-to, Proverbs 3 verse 5. Acknowledge him in all your ways and he will direct your paths. So that's it for me. I acknowledge him. Daddy, I acknowledge that you're the one that woke me up this morning. I acknowledge that you're the one that brought me here. I acknowledge you as Lord over my activities today. I ask that you take control over all that I'm going to do. So I do that on the days, you know, I'm working from the office. I do that. I come back into the office. I plug my ears, gospel music all the way. I'm listening to gospel music. It doesn't work for me listening to a sermon from the office because I have to converse. But on the work from home days, even though I've had my hour of prayer and all during the work day, I'm still listening to sermons.
Yeah.
I'm still listening. When I have to take a meeting or take a call, I pause it, do what I need to do, I get back into it. So that's just one of the things I do. So number one is a routine. So I know when I can afford to spend that hour in prayer and I know when I can't. And that's just the reality of things, right? So then there's also the listening to sermons during the day. Then, like you said, there's community. So there almost isn't a day when I don't have something that brings me into the presence of God. So Tuesdays, I have a meeting by 7 that I have to be in, 7 to 8 p.m. Wednesdays, service. Thursdays, I have another meeting. Friday, I have prayer with my girls. So there's just always something. That's something else that I use to stay in check. So I think that's pretty much it. Sundays, I make sure I'm in church, I'm serving. Service is very important to me. I make sure I'm serving. And because of the unit I serve in, I have to be prepared. I'm going to teach.
Yes.
So I have to study. I have
By the
to
way,
take out
she
time to
teaches
study.
teenagers.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have to take out time to study. I have to be prepared because a teenager will throw you a question. You're like, okay, how did we get there? How did we get here? So those are just some of the practical things that I do. Journaling also really works for me, and I like to actually write most times. So I have like this big pink book I write in. So journaling helps me on those days where I haven't had time to pray. It's not every day I can listen to a sermon in between work. Some days are just those days I can't. So on those days, I bring it out, dear God, I'm writing to God, and you just saying a prayer.
You know, as we were speaking, the Holy Spirit reminded me about, you know, talking about bringing our humanness into some of these struggles of balancing both. I'm aware that there are some ladies that maybe because of, you know, how their career has been overwhelming and stuff, they fell back unconsciously, and it just became their
The norm.
lifestyle, right? And then it's either they are struggling to get back on top, or they are feeling like they don't think God would even want to even
Yes.
see them anymore because
Yes.
they've left God for such a long time.
Yes.
What would you say to those kind of ladies?
That's why Jesus died. But quite honestly, that's what I'm going to say. That's why Jesus died. He died because we can't do it on our own. If you forget that you're human and you fall into the rat race of, I have to be perfect in this. If I miss my prayer, I'm a terrible person. Oh, God does not love me, or I know better. That's that thing that makes you feel like, oh, maybe the grace is available for a lot of other people, but for me, I know better. I should do better. I should. You could you could very easily fall away, right? Um, there's grace available. There's grace available. He made it available because we need it. So you haven't prayed, you haven't spent time with God. When you remember, go back to Him. You go back to your Father. He's there. His arms are always open. You know, there is a scripture that I use a lot in terms of balancing my career and my life, and it's come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. There are some times where it feels like I'm asking myself, what did I get into? How did I get here? Because there's so much to do. You are, in fact, you're confused by the notifications that are coming in. Which one should I answer to? Everything is urgent. Everything is, and then in those, like I said the other time, in those moments, I just shut down everything. And I go before God. I'm like, help me. Show me which one to do first. And it has happened. Actually, it does happen that when I actually do something that I feel led to do in that moment, as I'm done with it, a reminder comes in for it, and it's like, oh, I've sent it out. Or, you know, somebody asks me, oh, what's the progress on this? And I'm like, oh, I just got done with it. And it's like, great. So it works. So instead of running away from God, like, I need to figure this thing out on my own, or I need to find a way to come back to Him, go the journey with Him. He's the God of the journey. Go the journey with Him. Go back to your Father. He is your Father for a reason.
Yes.
He is your Father for a reason.
I mean, there's something that I have noticed in doing this journey with God is the fact that you see those times when you feel like, oh, I don't have any time to pray. I feel like if I spend this particular amount of minutes praying to take out time for my work, and I have a lot of work to do. See those times you still set out whether it's 15 minutes to pray. Do you know those are the days where you get like kind of close to 100% productivity. You just find out that you work with ease that day. So you find out that giving God just 15 minutes of your day before you started did not really cut out anything per se. So supporting what you just said about, you know, holding hands with God in your journey, knowing that God is not a, what do they call it, a father that would just blame you for anything, right? Knowing that His grace is actually sufficient, knowing that you can come to Him to tell Him that, God, this is how it is right now for me. I need your help. I need your help in balancing both, right? I need your help, like, help me. To get, and if there's something I know God always does, He always teaches you how you can just balance everything. It could be that for me now, most times on the days where I go to work, I don't have time to pray. I can just maybe worship God if just like in 5 minutes, but I don't really have time to pray. So me, I do my own on the bus. So I either listen to a sermon, like, and it takes me close to an hour to get to work. So 1 hour is enough to listen to one full sermon, or I just listen to something. And because I kind of like get to work sometimes early, sometimes not early, I find time, sometimes not all the time though, I find time to just still, as you said, the worship music, it helps a lot. Then I actually do my own devotion when I get back from work, when I have relaxed around that 9 p.m. ish. I just spend time with God, have my quiet time, and it's always beautiful. So it's not one way for everybody. It can be that maybe somebody watching this, it could just be that, okay, maybe you cannot do your devotion on Mondays because Mondays are hectic. Okay, but on Tuesdays, do you have time to, even if that's even what I'm saying. Devotion doesn't really have to be that. Some people can't do Bible study every day.
It's a relationship.
Do you get?
It's a relationship. You are in a relationship with God. So I think right that even if you can't set out that devotion time, there is that communication. You have to commune with God. It's a part of who we are, right? So yes, we're not, you probably don't have the time to sit for that, but do you commune with God during the day? And what's communion?
Conversation. I think one of the issues is that, people see prayer in a traditional sense of I have to kabash, I have to speak it, like I have to be fireful. The fire. Most of us grow up in homes whereby prayer
And that has its place, quite
it
honestly.
does,
Maybe
right?
I forgot to throw this in, but my Saturdays, I don't joke with it. I know I don't joke with my Saturdays. I wake up, I spend hours, and not everybody might be able to do this because
Yeah.
everybody's routine is different.
Yeah.
But you see, my Saturdays, when I wake up, I get out of bed. I don't eat. I don't leave my room. So I wake up, I spend time praying. I listen to a sermon. All these reboot camp, long hour prayers, I turn it on. Spend time praying, because that's for me. Those are the days that I know that I don't have interruption.
Yes.
Right. So it might look differently for everybody, but there has to be a way, because it's a relationship.
Okay, so even if during the week because of work you don't really have like much time for God, then there should be a time where you have quality
There
time
has to be
with
that
God.
quality time. I mean, think about it. And this is not to bring, the relationship with God to a dating relationship level, but it's not every time you can be on the phone with your boo-boo, talking long hours, discussing life plans, and on some days it's babe, how are you? Have you eaten? How is your day? How is work? And that's it.
Yes.
But there still has to be those times where you guys are discussing long-term plans.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Where are we going? Where is this headed? What are the plans for the next 3 months? And those ones are not over the chat. Those ones are, we are setting out time to discuss things. So even in your walk with God, yes, 1 hour here on Monday, 1 hour here on Wednesday, listening to a sermon here, just trying to keep that communion going. But there must be the hours of long prayers. There must be the hours of setting aside for God. There must be those consecrated hours where this is me and you, Daddy. Those sitting on the floor, forgetting myself in your presence time. It has to be now. It has to be.
Yes.
Well, those times have to be.
Yeah. So I mean, you can flourish in your career and also flourish in your relationship.
And he's a God
with
of excellence.
Yeah.
Because he'll teach you excellence.
Yes.
He will teach you excellence. You will then thrive at work.
Yeah, so to every lady watching this, right, I just, we want you to know that it is possible to be excellent in both. We are not saying that it is easy, but it is possible, right?
It is possible.
It is possible, and you can carry God along in your journey, even in your career journey. You can actively carry God along, and it works differently for everyone.
Yes.
Just find the one that works best for you. But by all means, do it with God, right? By all means, do it with God. So, it was beautiful having this conversation with you, Dolapo.
Thank you. It was lovely to be here.
Yeah, and Dolapo is also part of KU.
Right.
It was so nice having you here.
Happy to be part of KU.
It was nice having you here.
Lovely being
I know
here.
I'll have you here again.
Look
It's
forward
us
to
now.
it.
It's the community, us, maybe. Okay, thank you so much for watching, guys. Please subscribe. Don't leave before you subscribe.
Hit the like button. Share this with somebody that you think might need this as well.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.